All right, Brett Okamoto from ESPN here with a quick reactions to UFC 224 down in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And of course, the big story that everybody was talking about after this pay-per-view event was what happened in title contender Raquel Pennington's corner in between the fourth and fifth rounds. Raquel Pennington was down on the scorecards in her championship fight to Amanda Nunes. The fight was pretty one-sided. I mean, Raquel Pennington had some moments, but she'd been hurt earlier in the fight. It looks like her nose may have suffered an injury, possibly was broken, and she turned to her corner after sitting in her corner for a little bit, kind of staring off in nowhere. She stood up, she turned to her corner, who was actually behind her, and said that she was done, that she wanted to be done, and that their initial reaction was, "You're not done, fight through this, give it everything you've got, we can recover after the fight." She went back out, and for the next 2.5 minutes, she got taken down, she got hit additionally, she took more damage, and then the fight was over. It really kind of was all for naught, I think, in the minds of a lot of people who were watching. My initial reaction to this, and I put this on social media right away, is that I think that's a tough decision. I'm not saying that the corner was correct in letting the fight continue or not stopping the fight on Pennington's behalf. In fact, over the years, I've actually been an advocate for this to happen more often in the sport of MMA. I think there are these weird gray area situations in which a referee is not willing to stop a fight even though a fighter has suffered an injury or he's caught in a very perilous position, just because the fight isn't quite over. So the referee's hands are a little bit tied, and that's when the responsibility for fighter safety falls on the corner. And I think that should happen more often. In this case, when you have a fighter coming to their corner and saying, "I'm done," it's hard to get in the mind of Raquel Pennington. She has not come out and made comments on this yet. Obviously, when she does, those will be very interesting to hear. But you have to remember, if Pennington really wanted this fight to stop, she could have turned to the referee and said she was done. The fight would have been called immediately. I think, this is an individual sport, and Raquel Pennington is out there taking the damage herself, and that is absolutely the case. But you also hear a lot of these fighters describe this sport as a team sport, and they respect the opinion of their coaches, and they look to them for support, for guidance, for advice. I think it's reasonable to suggest or argue that in that moment, Raquel Pennington was not stopping the fight herself. She was turning to her corner and saying, I don't have anything now. And they gave her their own advice to say, "No, man, you can still do this. Get in there. We're still in this fight," etc., etc. I think that Raquel Pennington, her chances of winning that fight were slim to none at that point. You can't completely count it out, and you also can't eliminate. You have to consider this feeling of regret. If Raquel Pennington comes back after 4 tough rounds and she's sitting in her corner with 1 minute to go before the 5th round, and she says, "I'm done, I can't go on." Later on, down the road, possibly for even the rest of her life, would she regret or would she be upset about the idea that her UFC championship fight, her first UFC championship fight, something that she's worked for a long time, ended in that way because of something that she said to her corner in a time of a weakened state? So I think that this is a complicated issue, and that's really what I was putting out there on social media on the night of the fight, is that I think it puts the corner in a tough position. I think the corner is there to protect the safety of its fighter and to look out for her best interests. And I think in that 5th round, if you're watching the fight unfold and it looks like all Pennington is trying to do is survive and she has mentally accepted defeat, well, then you do throw the towel in and you stop the fight, because at that point, really there's no point in having her continue to be out there and fight someone like Amanda Nunes. So I think that anybody out there saying that the corner should have stopped the fight, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. I'm just bringing it up that just because a fighter goes to their corner in the middle of a tough championship fight and says, "I don't think I can continue," I don't know if that's just a black and white scenario of, okay, let's stop this fight. Another thing to talk about, UFC 224, a little bit on a higher note, Kelvin Gastelum defeating Jacare Souza via split decision. I had the fight for Gastelum as well. I had him winning 29-28. Some others had Jacare winning. I thought Kelvin Gastelum, he showed once again that he does have some deficiencies in his game, as everybody does. He has some things to work on in his game, and that is, potentially his takedown defense. And also when he is taken down off of his back, Chris Weidman showed this, Jacare showed it at UFC 224. When they're in top position, Kelvin Gastelum could be at a disadvantage on his back, but the guy is just so difficult to hurt. I mean, Jacare Souza landed some heavy right hands, and Jacare is not a light hitter. We've seen him knock out guys in the past. he bombed Kelvin Gastelum with some hard right hands, and you couldn't even tell at the end of the fight. There were no marks on his face. You couldn't tell during the fight. He really showed no reaction to him. He just brushed him off. Kelvin Gastelum is 26 years old, and it's pretty incredible. I mean, we're talking about another prospect on this card, Mackenzie Dern. She was receiving a lot of attention over this card. She's 25. You know, we keep saying she's so early on in her career. She's developing. You know, 25 is just so young. Kelvin Gastelum's only 26. And when you think about the experience that he's had already in the octagon and the youth, the combination of those two things, he is a tough competitor and contender, I think, at middleweight. I think that he should be next to face next month's winner between current champion Robert Whittaker and Yoel Romero. That fight is headlining UFC 225 in Chicago on June 9th. I think Kelvin Gastelum should be next. And while I don't think I would make him a favorite against either one of those, he has really solidified himself as a true contender. He's earned the shot, and he's going to be very interesting to watch fight either one of those guys. And I give him a chance to walk away from that eventual fight with the championship. I think Kelvin Gastelum does have the potential to be a champion.